Are you struggling for consistency in your sim racing? Does your iRating look like a roller coaster? If so, we have good news for you. The way to get more consistent is to first understand what you're doing differently than the professionals. And VRS is the answer. With our competitive subscription, you will have the telemetry, setups, tutorials, and everything else you need to fully analyze your driving. Our data packs and the ability to compare your driving with the best in the world will show you exactly where to adjust your inputs, change your driving line, and shave seconds off of your lap times. And our powerful and precise Direct Force Pro wheelbase and precision pedals are being used by some of the world's best drivers. All these champions agree that VRS hardware is not just the best on the market, it's also priced well below the competition. So if you're looking to upgrade to direct drive and the best pedals in sim racing, VRS is your answer. If you want to get better, get faster, and make it happen sooner rather than later, you owe it to yourself to find out why so many people are switching to VRS. You'll be so glad that you did. Visit www.virtualracingschool.com and learn why the best use VRS.
Greetings, race fans, and welcome to Apex Racing TV's presentation of the Radical Esports Cup. J.R. Gregory here on the call beside me. As always, my partner, Racing Ron Mons, and in the production booth, Joshua Wilkie. And folks, before we get started here today, on behalf of myself, Ron, and Josh, we really want to express our gratitude to be back here with this fantastic Radical community. The name of the event may have changed, but many of the drivers are back from past seasons. Really is a fantastic community that drives well together, and we're looking forward to another great season here. 2024 season 1, I think we're in. That graphic may not be up to date, but in any event, here we go. The star of the show, the Radical SR10, 425 horsepower, 725 kilos, with no traction control and no ABS. These cars are an absolute thrill to drive and will make you better at any car on the service that you choose to wheel. And let me tell you folks, this is not a league event. This is not a private event. This is the top split of the iRacing public server for 2100 GMT Friday and every Friday. So if you'd like to try your hand at this phenomenal Radical SR10 and appear here on Apex Racing TV, all you have to do is show up, get some practice laps in, qualify, and see what unfolds. So here we are. It's 2024 Season 1, Week 1. We are at the Red Bull Ring, located in Spielberg in the Styrian Mountains of Austria. Racing began here back in 1969 at the Österreich Ring, longtime site of the F1 Austrian GP. The current facility opened in 2011 after several years of dormancy, and any race fan will know its current host of the Austrian Grand Prix in Formula One and a heck of a lot of motorcycle racing. Today's configuration, 4.3 clicks, 2.7 miles, 10 turns, and the current track record held by Carlos Sainz, which he set in a McLaren in 2020. So Ron, here we are at the Red Bull Ring. We have not been with the Radicals on this track before, and my own experience at this track tells me there could be a couple of problem spots here for these Radicals, because it requires doing a couple things that the Radical does not excel at. One of them is woeing all the way down to first gear after a long straightaway. That happens a couple times on this course. And the second thing is getting a clean exit out of a low-speed corner in first or second gear. That happens a couple times as well. So what kind of action do you think we're going to see here today?
Well, fingers crossed it's going to be some great racing. Obviously, this track has attracted a lot of new drivers to the series, a lot of familiar names as well. This is the first time we've had a split for a season opener, my time covering this series, ever since Season 1 back in 2023, so it's great to have a lot of participation here. But I think at a track like this, you mentioned it's going to be a very unique style of racing. We have those long straightaways that are going to play really well with the slipstreaming properties of this car, but we also have those very heavy braking zones, which will definitely be a place for these drivers to make some pretty big mistakes. I drove this combination just a little bit right before this broadcast, and I'll tell you that's a very fun combination, but also a pretty challenging one. I saw plenty of drivers around me in the practice session making plenty of mistakes, so I think we might see some havoc being wreaked in this race, but I think we'll also see some pretty good racing and a lot of side-by-side action.
Absolutely, and one of the challenges here, of course, if you have ever driven on this track, it is a requirement to get the maximum or minimum lap times and maximum speed lap here at the Red Bull Ring. It is a requirement that you test the boundaries. There are a couple of high-speed exits where you have to take the car all the way off into the green paint, as we see Oliver Bennett doing here in his qualifying run. And so as you flirt with those boundaries, you're going to cross them inevitably, and the 1Xs are going to pile up here, so we'll be keeping an eye on that. This may be one of those rare cases where, just as the professional drivers in Formula One fight track limits on this track, these drivers might be fighting it as well. And here we see Bennett again going all the way outside the white line onto the green paint. That is inbounds there on that important run up to the front straight, but it's very easy to go over the line there, and we could have some drive-through stop-and-go penalties rearing their ugly heads here today.
Well, I think there definitely will. I mean, this past Austrian Grand Prix, I think it was a race where they had to, issue out 5 minutes worth of time penalties about 2 days after the race. So that'll show you what kind of issues these drivers are going to have to deal with.
Yeah, for sure. And here is our grid. We've got Daniel Lomba, a name not familiar to me. He's a 5.8K rated driver. So you get to see some of the best esports drivers in the world here on Apex Racing TV. So he'll have the pole. John McCutcheon, he's a familiar name, will be in P2. Gabriel Berger and Leon Hernandez in the next row. Rattonen and last season's champion James Berry there in P6. Frank Salonen and Oliver Bennett in 7 and 8. Jorge Gonzaga, a longtime competitor and one of our favorite drivers here in the Radical Esports Cup. On 9, Walters will be next to him in row 10. Lazardo and Levier there in 11 and 12. Bano and Iani, we've seen him some. He's a fast driver. I see him move up from that P14. Leah Anderson, Mika Hulkinen in 15 and 16. Dovale and another familiar driver, Samir Kadura there in 17 and 18. And 19 and 20, Woodhatch and Nazarenko. And that will take care of your grid here. We've got a few seconds left, probably about 30 seconds to the start. So looking down, now looking from behind, that is going to be Lomba in P1. And the pole here is going to start on the outside of that all-important turn 1. So we'll ride along with him on the start, and we'll be looking see if he can defend against McCutcheon. We'll have the inside run. And we are green. So far, so good. See a little smoke, but no contact here so far. The start is looking pretty clean. Lomba is going to maintain his P1. It's Lomba from McCutcheon. Hernandez has slipped ahead of Berger, then Barry, Rattonen, Solon, and Bennett, Walters, and Lazardo will make up your top 10. And Lazardo just slips past Walters there. And coming up right away here on cold tires, very difficult turn 3. They actually count that little kink back there as 2. So possible brake locked up and contact here. We see one car go wide, and there's a spinner already. Who could have seen that coming? Anybody, Ron.
Yeah, it's definitely not the first incident from this race. There's another one exiting turn 1 involving Samir Kaduri. You can see him with a missing front wing on that very striking Radical there, right at the back of the pack. There's a multiple car incident exiting turn 1. There's another one exiting turn 3. So we'll see if that's the last of the incidents from today. I doubt very highly that it'll be it, but we're seeing some side-by-side action here coming through the middle section of the circuit. This is coming through turn 6. Is pretty close here between the drivers. Very close stuff here. It's a nice battle. It's a nice track track to battle on because you've got these corners that go back and forth. It's a very flowing circuit with some stop-start nature throughout most of it as well, where you can slip a wheel down the inside under some heavy braking. But right now it's a train action of some radicals here, and all those drivers are feeling the burn of the dirty air. You can see some interesting interpretation of track limits there coming out of turn 1. These drivers are going to rack up those incident points, as you said there at the start, JR. But it's Lamba, my apologies there, having a very good first lap, extending that lead quite nicely over McHutchinson. And meanwhile, farther behind, some drivers are not having a very good turn of things at the moment.
Yeah, Lamba getting away clean and already creating a really nice gap there. And Lamba, his new name might end up being Lambamba. We'll keep you updated on that. But meanwhile, there's another car going wide there. That's Wrighton, and as his competitors stream past him as he overcooks that entry into turn 3. Very difficult. Again, no ABS on these cars. Very tough to get them woed down efficiently and put down the power in that difficult uphill turn 3. And we're going to see a lot of action there. And a great point, Ron. Aside from those couple of low speed corners, the rest of this flowing high speed track here in Spielberg, very well suited to this Radical SR10.
Yeah, it kind of has elements of many other tracks that we've visited throughout these broadcasts here on Apex Racing TV, back when it was called the Radical Racing Challenge. Last season, we had a fantastic race at Alton Park, which was, I believe, one of the best races we had all season. So it has that flowing nature, but also has that stop-start bit. But we have a 3-wide battle here. Oh, and it results in contact. You can see the spinning. I believe that's the number 20 who's spinning around multiple different ways after he rejoins the track and makes contact. That's Berger there, Gabriel Berger, in the number 20 car, which is not a name I recognize from this series, but he has had a very dramatic turn of things in the past few moments. Was running firmly in the top 10, but after that incident is currently running in a very disappointing 14th. It's not the best start for him, but it's some more just being and banging racing that we expect from these drivers. They're very clean drivers, they're very respectful drivers, but they're going to give it everything out on the track. You can see on the left-hand side of your screen with these SDK graphics, it's only 17 laps that these drivers have to kind of claw through the field and battle for position. So these drivers aren't going to give any quarters to their competitors, and none quarters are expected to be given if you're battling with anyone in this series. So that could be the reason why we see some fisticuffs break out and some really hard racing. You can see Ryan in there getting really sniffed up from the other driver right behind him, and meanwhile he's actually lost that position there. You can see Larzano there going side by side with his fellow countrymen there coming into turn 6. Some close racing there and some more close action, some battling and being and banging with Salonen, who is going off the track along with Walters. They made some contact coming through turn 6, and that's ended in tears for the both of them. You can see Walters doing some rally action in the gravel trap there, so Walters having a very tough start of things.
Yeah, we'll get a little replay here. This track does invite side-by-side action, as Ron pointed out, and you got to have a lot of trust. And if you don't have your speed figured out just right, oh my goodness, yeah, their little net code there looked like enough room to put my BMW SUV in between those two. So I don't think anybody's going to be to blame for that one. But yeah, all the side-by-side action in these S's, if you don't get it just right, the slightest touch is going to send these radicals careening into the kitty litter, as we have seen there. And speaking of clawing your way up through the field, look at Dorian Lalevre. I totally ruined that pronunciation, but he has moved up 6 positions from P12 up into P6. And also Barry making a good day of it. He's moved up 2 positions to P4, now sitting in the top 5.
Don't worry, JR, I completely butchered some pronunciations earlier, so I won't fault you too badly for that. But regardless of what their pronunciations may be, they're putting on a great battle at the moment. You can see them clawing for position and shuffling all throughout here. You can see we're riding on board with Lardeau here in the number 6 car, currently running in P7, and he's the trail of this car. Meanwhile, I believe Woodhatch has had some kind of issue. He's dropped down the order, currently running in P19, only ahead of Kadura, who's had a very tough race, is currently running in last. And actually Woodhatch has now come into the pits. Maybe he'll some kind of penalty, maybe he's coming in for some new tires or to fix some damage, who knows. We might get a replay to see what in the world happened to him, but the battle that we've been looking at here has been pretty close here. But I think we have some replays of some incidents that happened earlier in the race. This could be with Samir Kadura here. Ooh, yeah,
Kadura,
there you go.
modeling his before and after the wingless Radical, and you can see that car is lacking in downforce as he immediately turns it at the first corner. So yikes, yeah, Sedura struggling there. And yeah, now back to live. There's a nice looking train here forming with, I'm going to call him Le Lièvre. Le Lièvre? I'm going to call him Lelev for now until somebody corrects me, but great train forming with him, Lazardo, and Reitinen there. Probably about 2/10 or so between each of those cars, and they're not done. They're not done fighting it out here as we're completing lap 5.
I think this is kind of like the racing gods punishing us. Of course, throughout the past few seasons here on Apex, we've had the as we see a incident there with Leah Anderson exiting turn 4, I believe that is, spun and just stopped there, trying to get it turned around. We're gonna get a replay to see what happened here. We'll take a look at this replay. A very bold move down the inside. That was a very opportunistic move, trying to get it done here, and just. Ooh, yeah, it's unfortunate, but it's something you expect with these cars, as we have a lot of drivers taking to the gravel to try and avoid her. That was the reason why we had a lot of shuffling there, but this car is very difficult to stop. I will say it has improved a lot this season. I really enjoyed it. Something I always complained about with this car is how difficult it was to stop and how easy it was to lock up, but just a little bit of a mistake there for Leah Anderson, and that cost her badly. But the point I was going to mention there is one of the stalwarts of the series that we've always had on these broadcasts, who's now with us tonight, Dennis Kyriakopoulos. He was a name that we always butcher the pronunciation of, so I think that's the racing gods have sent in the other 10th place runner of livery. I'll go with that pronunciation, even though it's probably completely incorrect. So that could be the reason why he's returned to the series.
Yeah, and speaking of Le Livre, he has plummeted now. Something just happened. Maybe in that train that had formed that we were watching there for a while, he dropped from P6 to about P10 there. Had some kind of incident, and Josh is going to pull up that replay so we can take a look at him. And we're focused on Reitinen now. Oh, here we go. So I think we're going to see Dorian here a little too lively on the throttle coming into turn 1, over-rotates it, and that is that. He keeps it out of the barrier, but that cost him his participation in that train at the front and sent him way back down to closer where he qualified. He's now up 2 from his original qualifying position in P12. Meanwhile, up front, Daniel Lamba has stretched out his lead, and as soon as I say that, it goes back down to 0.3. So either our timing software was glitching there, or Lamba has had a problem. He had a 2 or 3 second gap when last I glanced over, and now you can see McHutchinson there polishing his bumper all over him now, down to under 3/10. And not sure again what happened to Lamba, but his race has suddenly changed here with about 10 laps remaining.
Gap cratering like that and having a car that close to you in your rearview mirror is not a good sight to have at any point in the race, doubly so when you're only 7 laps into a 17-lap affair in this race. So I gotta imagine how he's managed to hold on to those tires, because that's one thing that's been brought up many times on these broadcasts. We've been that dead horse, but it's not really a dead horse, because it just rears its head in these very short races, and it's tire management. These drivers tend to beat on their tires a little bit when the track position is so important, and they're so close to each other, trying to beat and bang and claw for every position they can. But when these drivers reach the climax and the closing stages of these races, it's usually when that burn really comes in, with them beating their tires to death in the early stages. So that could be the reason why we're seeing the leaders struggle here. You can see that gap is still maintaining around the same. We're going to take a look at the lap times there, and you can see McHutchinson was fairly quick there, but actually a little bit slower than Lamba. So I think we could see a battle here. I mean, he has the advantageous position here, being in the slipstream, but I think there's still a lot to play for in this race. I think that battle will definitely not be over up towards the front.
Yeah, that's a really good point, Ron. And Lamba, as we noted before, not a familiar name here for us covering these radicals. So he may be new to this car, and the tire deg may have caught him out. You cannot flog this car lap after lap after lap, even in a short sprint, without the tires falling off dramatically. So tire management is a thing, even in these short sprint races on these radicals, because they will beat those tires to death, particularly the fronts on a track like this with the heavy braking zones.
One thing that racing drivers always want, they want the perfect tire. They want one that's incredibly soft, that won't lead to dramatic moments like Ayani just had coming out of turn 4 there. That was a close moment with, I believe that was Gonzaga there. So I believe Gonzaga got a little bit sideways as they were going side by side. We might have to take a look at a replay to see what in the world happened there between those two. And yes, thank you very much, Josh. Working very quick here to get the replay here. We're following Ayani going into turn 4, very heavy braking zone, one of the heaviest on this track, one that I made a mistake at on my own, and you can see Gonzaga being very sideways there, overcooking it, getting sideways through the corner, and then Ayani just had to check up and take avoiding action to not rear end him. So that was very lucky that those drivers managed to escape that without any real damage. I'm sure Ayani and Gonzaga both have pretty damaged tires right now, but the fact they managed to escape that with some clean race cars is truly unbelievable, because that was a very close call.
Yeah, great driving by both of them, both by Gonzaga not looping it there completely. Pretty good save, although at some cost of tire temperature, as Ron pointed out, and also the evasion there by Iani. And it looks like Gonzaga has gotten back past Iani too, so that we're not really settling into any positions here as the dicing and battling continues here at Red Bull Ring. And here is Bennett now. Got Salonen sniffing all around his hindquarters as we enter the hazardous and difficult turn 3. Watch Bennett get a way better exit there. I guess that's Nazarenko that we're looking back at now. Excellent exit of that corner by Bennett, and Bennett is going to extend his gap coming downhill into this another very difficult change of elevation braking spot here at the Red Bull Ring.
I think that gravel trap on the outside of turn 4 is probably the most discovered one in this race so far. We've seen plenty of drivers make mistakes there. Of course, we had that incident there with, I believe that was with Leah Anderson many laps ago that resulted in about 4 cars taking to the gravel trap just to avoid hitting her stopped car. Meanwhile, up towards the front, the gap has actually decreased between Lamba and McHutcherson. You can see that gap is pretty close. And meanwhile, Reinen is just at the fastest lap of the race at a 1:26.2, so that's a pretty good turn of pace for him. We'll see if he can try and break into the top 5 before this thing's said and done. But you can see the 1-2 runners are going side by side. McHutchinson has a very great run coming through turn 3, but he wasn't fast enough to get the move done. But he's still side by side. That would have been an absolutely fantastic move if he managed to get it done, but he has the opportunity to do it again. Coming into turn 4, he's a little bit farther alongside. It's going to be a battle of the last late breakers, and Lamba is going to have the inside. We'll see if McHutchinson tries to get the over and under. He does not, so we'll see if he can try something in the very tight and twisty and technical section here in the middle section of the circuit. The dirty air is going to wreak havoc on his pace coming through here, especially with how close he is to Lamba in P1 right now. So McHutchinson really just has to save his stuff, try and focus on having a good exit coming out of 1 and just trying to get a move done coming into 3, but he's still closing in. You can see on the bottom corner of the screen, you can see the speed he's getting coming into this coming into the second to last corner there of turn 9, now going through the final corner of turn 10. These cars are so powerful. They have such a powerful slipstream effect. We've known this for pretty much ever since season 2 is when it really became its own little thing that we had to talk about in pretty much every single one of these broadcasts. These cars can be about at 10 to 15 miles an hour quicker if they have that slipstream effect. So I think this might be McHutchinson's best opportunity yet. He's actually pulling out of the slipstream there, so I think McHutchinson might be thinking at this stage of the race, as Walter snaps that's the fastest lap, takes that from Reinen. I think McHutchinson at this stage might be realizing that he should just save up his stuff and try and go for it in the final 10 laps.
Wow, and that move by McHutchinson, I mean, creative might be one word for it, attempting that outside pass into turn 3. That's something that I have never seen happen in real life or in sim, so that would have been a miraculous outcome if he would have made that pass stick. And yeah, Ron, I think he's probably biding his time, fighting off his adrenaline from that pass attempt that we saw earlier, and trying to figure out a better approach to Lamba here. And he's got his work cut out for him. Both drivers putting down very fast laps. Lamba's fast, just a 1:26.2, and McHutchinson just a tenth slower. So that battle not over. Although, as I say that gap is picking up just a hair now there between McHutchinson and Lamba as we watch Lazardo there with Reitinen sniffing around behind him. He's going to check the inside, maybe. Nope, thinks better of it, and he will get see what kind of run he can get here onto the front straight, headed down into turn 1.
Can I just say that David Walters has had a fantastic turn of pace throughout the bulk of this race. I believe he made a mistake earlier that dropped him down to P14 and is now made up into the top 10, and I think he'll be pretty close to sniffing around to get the move done on Dorian and P9 right now, so that could be a nice storyline to follow. I think he's too far back to really get involved in the Ayani Gonzaga or even the Lardeau and Reinen fight, but I think at this stage David Walters is putting in some very good laps at the fastest lap of the race a few laps ago, so I think David Walters is a driver that we have to keep our eyes on in the late stages. We have a bunch of battles right now. I feel bad for our producer Josh. He has to be like a chameleon focusing on two different things at once, but we've got some close battles here. This is one of them with Lardeau going into turn number 4 here. He's trying to get the move done, is Reinen, and I think he will be able to get the move done, but Lardeau is going to have the long run exiting on the outside of that corner. Now he's going to have the inside coming into 6 here. This is going to be close here. It might result in tears. They're pretty close there. A little bit of contact, I believe. You can see Reinen spike the wheel a little bit, maybe a little bit of a snap of oversteer there, but Reinen right now is feeling really racy to the back of the Frenchman, currently running in P5. This is a battle for the last of the top 5 positions, and it continues coming into the second to last corner there, still going side by side, and Reinen manages to get the move done with a very textbook yet still pretty impressive move coming into the penultimate corner.
Yeah, that is a tough move into turn 9. It's a difficult braking zone when you are by yourself in the best of conditions, downhill off camber, and you see that driver get it done offline and get the move done at the same time and make it stick, at least for now. Looking back at Lazardo says, yeah, I can make a pass too, and I'm going to test the McCutcheon, not possible on the outside pass here into turn 3. Maybe he's going to prove me wrong. And no, saving himself for the over-under, maybe. And now he's going to take reassess things heading down the hill into the deceptively tight turn 4. When you're in the car, doesn't look that tight, but it's a very slow second gear corner that requires a lot of patience, and just another part of the fascinating design of the track here in Spielberg.
McCutcheon gets a move done to take the lead of the race from Lamba there. That was a very bold and audacious move coming into turn 6. He just barely snuck a wheel there down the inside, and he managed to get it done, but I don't think it's over yet. You can see Lamba closing in a lot. Coming into the penultimate corner, he has to lift off the gas, crack it open a little bit, and now it looked like he was going to try and go for a move coming around the outside. That would have been a move that I've never seen before in my many months covering sim racing here on Apex, but that's a very good move for McCutcheon to grab the lead of the race on lap 14 here, about to start lap 15. Actually, no, lap 13, my apologies, starting lap 14 now. So McCutcheon now in control of the race, but certainly not over yet. The gap is still about 0.2 of a second between those two, decreasing a lot as they go down the straightaway here, and I think Lamba might try and get the move done. Is he going to try and go for the outside? Is he going to try and switch to the inside? No, he actually doesn't go for the move. That's pretty surprising. I think he might be trying to focus on the exit here coming out of turn number 3. That's a very important corner to try and get right, because it leads onto a very long straightaway, one of the longest on the track, and leads this straightaway leads into a very challenging braking zone, so you can sneak a wheel down the inside and just spook your competitors. It looked like you can see Lamba there sneaking a wheel down the inside just barely and trying to really psych out McCutcheon. But McCutcheon has run in this series quite a he's run this series very long. It's a name that I've recognized ever since I started covering this series back in March of this year, so he's a name that's very familiar with this series, but I don't remember him being in this very advantageous position running in P1, so the fact that he's managing to hold on to it as well as he has is pretty damn impressive right now, but there's still a lot to play for. We still have 3 more laps to go, and we'll see if the pressure gets to him or if he can take the checkered flag.
Yeah, McCutcheon seems to be just in tiny chunks, expanding that gap to Lamba. Lamba, frankly, after his performance in qualifying, looked untouchable, and again, he may have just overworked those tires as McCutcheon beginning to drive away, and my apologies if McCutcheon made that epic move. I think I talked right over it, but McCutcheon now in the lead, but that gap has come down again. It's down to 0.1 with 3 laps remaining, and oh, there's a spinner. Wow, and Dovalet there, not happy at all. He had some help getting shunted into the barrier there. There's some salty language on comms, and we may take a look back at that one, but he has binned it. The race over for Double A, and still expressing his opinion on race comms. My goodness. Meanwhile, here's Hutchinson, 0.3 gap ahead of Lamba. And here we're going to see Double A. And who is 19 there?
Ooh. That's a very clumsy incident there, and I believe looking at my live timing screen, number 19 is John Benolade, I believe. I might butcher that pronunciation, but he is currently running in P13, so those two are battling outside the top 10, but still, even with that top 15 running position, they were still pretty upset after that. I can't really blame them. I didn't have the other radio comms on, and I'm sure you can repeat what was said over the radio, so it's definitely some tempers flaring at this very early stage of not just the race but the season as well. So I mean, we still have a lot of action here from this series, and not a whole lot of action left in this race. We have 2 laps to go here, and we're riding on board with Lamba. We'll see if he can try and get the move done here. Coming into 3, you can see Hutchinson trying to block off that inside line, but Lamba he's not down and out. He is trying to get the move done. That would have been very bold to try and do it around the outside. Meanwhile, we've got the battle here with Lardeau and Reinen here coming into turn 3, and you can see Lardeau on the outside. He's going a little bit wide, so Reinen's got to try and cut back on. Meanwhile, up towards the front, you can see there 1-2 runners. I'm stuttering for my words here. You can see they're going side by side now. Lamba has actually managed to claw back that position, but I don't think it'll be over yet. We'll see if McHutchinson can pull off the move that he did to initially take the lead, to retake the lead of this race. It's not done yet. They're still going side by side. Actually, no, he cleared him. So Lamba now manages to retake the lead. We're going to take the white flag here in a few moments' time, and we are setting ourselves up for an absolute barn burner of a finish between not just Lamba and McHutchinson, but also the battles all throughout this field. But this is really the one that we have to keep our eyes on, because it is very spirited, very heated, and I think both of these drivers have their own strengths that are going to play to their own effect here in this last lap.
Yeah, Lamba, what a move. He saved it for the second to the last lap in that very difficult downhill braking zone into turn 4 that we're watching Reiten and navigate right now, and manages to stick it in there. They're side by side through the S's, and Lamba comes out ahead, and that gap now growing. McHutchinson may have had a bobble there. He's up to 0.6 already. Lamba driving away all of a sudden, looking like he's not going to get any challenge for McHutchinson for P1. Man, Lamba getting it done when he needed to. What a move by Lamba, and what a great race here at the Red Bull Ring. Holy cow.
Don't think it's over yet, though. I think there's still plenty of time left, but the point you mentioned there, he had to have made some kind of mistake. I will say the dirty air definitely must have played a role in that. Meanwhile, Lardeau and Reinen are still going side by side, but the gap decreased a little bit there in the braking zone. I don't think it's going to be enough for McHutchinson. He might be hoping that there's going to be an 18th lap in the 17-lap race, but there won't be. So I think McHutchinson right now is probably going to finish in P2 unless something major happens. This track is very challenging. I'm sure Lamba is racked up on those incident points. You can see him going wide again, coming through turn 7 here. You can see them closing up, but I don't think it's going to be enough unless we see some real bravery here from McHutchinson. I think it's going to be him finishing in P2 unless he tries to sneak a wheel down the final corner, which I don't think he will.
Yeah, tough to make anything happen there. It's really a high-speed flowing part of the track. Not a lot of braking there in that final section. And Lamba, if he comes back, his name may become La Bamba. We will talk to him about his affinity or not for Richie Valens here if he comes in for the interview. But our field here taking after 17 very interesting laps of racing here. You got Lamba from McHutchinson, from Hernandez, from James Berry, Lazardo, Reitman, Iani, Gonzaga, Walters, and Salonen will be your top 10, followed by Lever, Bennett, Benoit, Anderson, Nazarenko, and Berger. 16 cars taking the checker here, and the final 4 have binned it at various junctures of the race. Halkinen, Dovale, Kadura, and Woodhatch, who stuffed it way back while people were still looking for their seats in lap 3. And my goodness, what a race here, Ron. And looking ahead to the season one continuing here. We get some new faces, some exciting action, and man, I'm stoked about how this season is going to unfold here.
Well, that was one hell of a way to kick it off. That was a beautiful night of racing action and also some action in the in-race chat, which I just took a look at, and I saw another competitor, I won't say who, saying shut up in the in-race chat, so you can tell some drivers are not very happy with each other. So a little bit of heated and frayed nerves here in this season opener here at the Red Bull Ring. But we were coming into this race thinking it was a little bit of an unknown quantity. We haven't run at this track before with this series. I believe the last time we ran here might have been season 1 back in 2023, which was before I even came here to Apex Racing TV. So we were not really sure what to expect coming into this race, but we saw some really heart-pumping action from start to finish. We had a battle for the lead, which was just brilliant to watch. We had some battles farther down the top 5 and the top 10 and even outside that as well. So we had some great racing action here, and we definitely have a lot more in store here, not just on Apex Racing TV, because we've got stuff really going on all week long here on Apex. We've also got a lot of stuff from the Radical Racing Challenge here. So we've got we'll have to go through the schedule a lot in the other closing stages of not just this broadcast, but throughout this whole season, because I think it's a fantastic season that we have ahead of us and a fantastic schedule to look forward to.
Yeah, the calendar is looking good, and in consulting with a few of the long-term drivers in the Radical community, they've added some tracks that they know are popular across the service in an effort to increase the size of the field a little bit here. We saw that already working here today. We had 2 splits, 30 cars signed up for our 2100 GMT broadcast, which is pretty good for an opener, and part of that I think is due to the popularity of the Red Bull Ring. So really great to see things picking up here. And speaking of coming up, as Ron said, Apex Racing TV, not just about these fantastic radicals. We have got some of the best esports drivers, best cars, and best tracks 7 days a week coming up this weekend. As just an example, we have 2 Ray Esports events. Our Formula Ford Weekend Warriors and Spec Racer Ford Weekend Warriors are both running Saturday and Sunday at Watkins Glen. Next week we'll kick off strong with Tuesday's broadcast of round 5 of the Apex Racing Academy Porsche Cup from Interlagos. So hit that subscribe button, folks. Subscribe to Apex Racing TV, and also be sure to hit that notification button so you don't miss any of the action. And I'm just going to take a quick peek outside here, and it doesn't appear like anybody has stopped by for an interview here today. So closing thoughts, Ron. You got that schedule in front of you? I hate to put you on the spot.
Well, I've got the schedule, but I think what we should do to round off this broadcast is take a look at the results from this. We had a lot of drivers, some stragglers taking a little bit to cross a finish line here. A lot of drivers having some tough races here. So it's Lamba, McCutcheon, Hernandez, Barry, and Lardeau completing your top 5. A lot of them having some pretty dramatic races. Still fairly close, all things considered. The top 5 separated by about 13 seconds, and the top 2 separated by about 3/10. That is incredibly close between all of them. That's Ryan and Ianni, who are in a very good battle, while Lardeau and Ryan were involved in a great battle. Then Ianni and Gonzaga, who were involved in a great fight, and even had a little bit of a tussle there. They end up in P7 and P8. That's David Walters breaking into P9, so he managed to claw up just one more position after we mentioned him a few moments ago. He finished in P9, and meanwhile Salonen completes your top 10 here. The driver from Finland running at your top 10 about 30 seconds back, well, 26.7 seconds to be a bit more precise from the leader. But yeah, we've got a whole lot of stuff coming up here from this schedule. We've got the Nordschleife in 1 week's time, so you can catch this stream here on Apex Racing TV in 1 week's time at the Nordschleife. That'll make up for me missing the season finale for last season after I picked up a case of COVID. So that'll be good. 4 laps there. That's always a very dramatic race there from start to finish. So that'll be good to kick off week 2, and that will go to Laguna Seca, which is a track that we haven't visited ever since, I believe, season 3 earlier here in 2024. So that'll be nice to return. That'll be the last of the races from this year. So that would be a good way to close off the Radical Racing Challenge here in 2023. And then to kick off the new year of 2024, we have week 4 at a fantastic circuit, Spa-Francorchamps, 11 laps there. That is going to be a barn burner in a few weeks' time for week 4. And then we're going to Tsukuba, which I always pronounced as Tsukuba ever since I first drove on that track back in Forza Motorsports 4 as a very young boy. I think I was probably about 8 years old when I first drove that track. But it's a wonderful circuit here in iRacing, very tight and small circuit as well, which I think will lend itself to some good close quarters racing. That will be 28 laps there, so that's going to be a bit of a haul for a lot of these drivers. And then we're going to continue with a little bit of an Asian sweep here as the next week after that we go to Suzuka, 13 laps there. That'll be a good race there for week 6 to hit the midway point of the season. Then we're going to Alton Park again, which held a fantastic race last season. That'll be week 7, 17 laps there. Hopefully, fingers crossed, it brings back even more racing action than we saw there back in season 4 of 2023. And then we have Sebring there returning to the schedule after a season-long break. That'll be 13 laps there, and unfortunately, it will not be held under the night, I believe, which is a shame because we had that night race at Sebring 2 seasons ago, and it was brilliant to watch. So maybe we'll swindle our way into to turning that into a night race again. We'll plead with the Radical community to turn that into a night race because that was really a unique spectacle here on Apex. Then we have Road Atlanta week 9. That'll be a great race there. Monza, that'll be week 10. That's going to be pretty good, especially the chaos going into turn 1. Actually, I say that it's going to be held on the Grand Prix version of the track without the first chicane, so you're going to have an even longer run until we get to that first braking zone for the second chicane, which will be the first on this configuration. That's going to be some pretty good racing for week 10. And then for the final 2 races of the season, we have Mount Panorama, and then to round the season off for week 12, it'll be at Donington Park, which was a season opener last season, which is going to be the final race of the season to close off this Radical Racing Challenge. That'll start on the last week of February, and it'll extend to the first week of March for us on these Friday broadcasts.
All right. Thank you, Ron. That's an awesome overview of what looks like an exciting schedule, folks. And remember, again, not to put too fine a point on it, but these are public servers. If you would like to participate in the Radical Esports Cup, come on down, give it a try. These cars are absolute joy to drive. You may have heard when they first came out that they weren't driving that well. Very common complaint. iRacing folks listened, and the cars are driving beautifully, and you heard that fantastic schedule. We are going to have a great season, and we invite you to be a part of it. And if you don't get around to driving, certainly remember to tune in here, 2100 GMT every Friday, Apex Racing TV, for our presentation of the iRacing Radical E-Cup. And I think that is going to conclude our broadcast for today. So this is J.R. Gregory on behalf of myself, on behalf of my partner, Racing Ron Mons, and our producer, Joshua Wilkie. We are so happy to be back here covering this Radical community. Thanks so much for joining us. Happy Friday, and have a great weekend.
Are you struggling for consistency in your sim racing? Does your iRating look like a roller coaster? If so, we have good news for you. The way to get more consistent is to first understand what you're doing differently than the professionals. And VRS is the answer. With our competitive subscription, you will have the telemetry, setups, tutorials, and everything else you need to fully analyze your driving. Our data packs and the ability to compare your driving with the best in the world will show you exactly where to adjust your inputs, change your driving line, and shave seconds off of your lap times. And our powerful and precise Direct Force Pro wheelbase and precision pedals are being used by some of the world's best drivers. All these champions agree that VRS hardware is not just the best on the market, it's also priced well below the competition. So if you're looking to upgrade to direct drive and the best pedals in sim racing, VRS is your answer. If you want to get better, get faster, and make it happen sooner rather than later, you owe it to yourself to find out why so many people are switching to VRS. You'll be so glad that you did. Visit www.virtualracingschool.com and learn why the best use